Hey, what's up guys? John here. We are witnessing a total shift in the housing market never before seen, and it's just getting started. Ever since COVID, real estate has been a mass market speculation play, many betting on Airbnb, others betting on farmland, but one thing is constant: real estate over fiat. But what happens when the consumer across the board begins to struggle at a rate never before seen since the founding of this country in 1776? Did you know that a whopping 40% of Americans that make $300,000 a year are one paycheck away from defaulting on bills? $25,000 a month, and they're paycheck to paycheck. 25% of Americans are financing bread and pasta and basic groceries at the cash register.
Look at this. 25% of Americans who have buy now, pay later loans are using them to help afford groceries, and that number is up from 14%.
12% of all credit card balances are 90 days delinquent.
The delinquency rate on credit card loans, which means loans with delayed payments by 90 days or more, has surged from around 8% in 2023 to over 12%.
9% of all credit card borrowers owe more than $20,000. Those fancy cars that you see on PCH or in Brickell, well, they're one payment away from going back to the lender. 1 out of 5 new cars have a payment over $1,000 a month. This does not include gas, car insurance, basic repairs. But a unique twist is unfolding as consumers are crumbling. Some investors see the writing on the wall and realize consumers don't have many places to turn for access to capital. So they're bringing forward things called a flex loan, which is a 200 to 300% APR interest rate short-term loan. But let's look at housing, because that's a much bigger story. First, many of the boom cities, Miami, Austin, Nashville, they have seen an explosion in apartment development since interest rates dropped. And many of these investors borrowed as much as they could to build these towers. Well, now vacancies are all-time highs and rents are crashing. Many of these markets, you're seeing rents drop 15 to 20% inside of a 12-month calendar year. What does this mean for the real estate syndicators, the bank lenders, and the investors who built these towers thinking interest rates would stay low? And now interest rates have doubled, property insurance has doubled, vacancies have climbed, and competition has become much more fierce than anticipated. It means that those with limited capital will suffer, and we will see a lot of these properties trading hands in the coming years. You just look at basic math, especially when many of these investors were hoping to get a 6 to 8% return as the best outcome. But how does that work when rents, in many cases, are down 15 to 20% alone, not including the increased borrowing cost, the property taxes exploding in many of these markets, and insurance continuing to climb year over year? In Austin, Texas alone, rents are down 21%, and they have 10% vacancy rates with 15,800 apartments coming to market in the coming few months. In Nashville, there's an 8.2% vacancy rate with 4,800 apartments available for rent on Zillow alone. In Miami, 7.4% of all apartments are sitting vacant, and there's towers littering the skyline with apartments being built and condo projects being built. So what does this mean? It means we should look deeper. This isn't just a COVID housing story, it's a borrowing story, and it clearly tells us where the future is heading. The same thing is happening in office buildings. Vacancies are continuing to climb, and business owners are looking to cut expenses. And the first thing to go really is that office square footage. And due to remote work and this really big trend unfolding, with the help of AI and automation, less office space will be needed in the future. The same story is following retail. Here are just a few brands set to close all or some of their locations in the following 90 days. Macy's closing 150 stores. Joann Fabrics, bankrupt, closing 800 locations. Walgreens, CVS, they're both closing their underperforming stores. Dollar General is ramping up store closures. Party City is facing bankruptcy, and their parent company is closing down their locations. Rite Aid entered bankruptcy, and now they're moving to close a lot more locations. Kohl's and JCPenney, same story. But what does this mean for the lenders that are lending on these retail properties? Well, retail real estate is mainly based on the income in which that asset will generate. So if they have an anchor tenant like a JCPenney or one of these really big stores, well, that store offers a lot of value to all of the smaller tenants in that strip center. So they'll give them a good lease to try to attract a higher rent from those lower quality tenants. And so it basically builds this moat of safety on that strip center. But when that moat of safety goes away, what does it mean for the value of the entire strip center? What does it mean when the owner of that property refinance with record low interest rates? And now rates are much higher and they're not going to be able to replace that tenant quality and that tenant mix. It means the value of a lot of these retail properties are going to be going down. But this isn't just about retail. It's not just about apartment building construction or office vacancies. It's much bigger than all of this. Look at California, for example. They're introducing something called a wealth tax. Chamath from the All In podcast reportedly just made $4 billion on the Grok NVIDIA deal. One of the early employees in Facebook apparently invented the like button. And he came out saying that on Twitter, that $500 billion worth of collected capital across his peers have left California in the last 24 hours over this wealth tax. Just think about that for a second. If you're worth 5 million, 10 million, maybe you're employing a dozen people, maybe you're employing 2 dozen people. But what if you're worth 50 million, 100 million? Are you employing a dozen people? No, probably hundreds of people. Hundreds of people, their families, they depend on that job, that career. What happens if you're worth $1 billion, 10 billion, 50 billion, let alone 500 billion collectively? You're talking about thousands upon thousands of families that could lose their opportunities due to policies that are being enacted, potentially. There's ripple effects. The landscaper, the nanny, the housekeeper, all of these jobs that will be impacted and that are not really being taken into consideration. But the big question is, when the state loses that many job creators, who funds the social programs? So far, they've already lost Tesla, Oracle, Hewlett-Packard, Charles Schwab, Chevron, Palantir, SpaceX, FICO, and now Peter Thiel and Larry Page of Google are in discussions about possibly leaving. Imagine if they relocated Google's headquarters. I'm not saying that they would, but if one of the founders is taking chips off the table in California, it would make sense that he would relocate all or some of his company outside of that state. It's reported that they only need 900,000 votes out of 40 million people in California for this new wealth tax to pass. If you're a business owner in California, you must like pain, because the last 5 years, it's been consistent. And this is coming from someone that lived in California for more than a decade. I love California, but I don't love what it's become over the last 5 years. It's become even more litigious. Taxes continue to climb. It's becoming more red tape in nearly every aspect of whether it's real estate or business. Things have just become more challenging. And then how do you plan over the next year, 5 years, or 10 years if you're a business owner, given what California's done the last 5 years and given what they'll likely do over the next couple of years? Right? Things are going to get weirder, harder, and more challenging. So if you're a business owner, there's a good chance you're questioning the decision of staying in California. Every problem in California is blamed on the rich not paying their fair share. And not the fact that California spent between 24 and 37 billion to combat homelessness over the last 6 years, and homelessness has only grown. Make that make sense.
We have spent 24 billion taxpayer dollars on homelessness. We've seen a 32% increase in homelessness during that same period. And so this is extremely problematic that we don't know where any of those investments have gone.
Could it be financial neglect or worse? This is not a problem that needs to be funded by business owners or wealthy people in California. Those individuals are the ones that are creating job opportunities, and with them gone, the situation will just get worse. However, the current direction that California is going in could lead them to lose a lot of really great people. And this situation could spiral out of control to where taxes are going to continue to climb because there's going to be more people that are going to be demanding social services, and there'll be less people to fund it. So if there's less jobs available and social services grow, taxes will end up going north. So just basic math will tell you that if good jobs are leaving California and these businesses are leaving California, and more people are going to be dependent on social services to survive, that would mean taxes will climb. A lot of people with remote jobs that don't have to stay in California will likely leave. Not all, but more. and they're going to continue to lose a lot of these great people. Before moving forward, here's a quick word from today's sponsor. Most people don't realize this, but if you wanted to invest in SpaceX, you couldn't. While insiders wrote a 1,600% valuation increase from about 46 billion to nearly 800 billion. Everyday investors never had access. No IPO, no public shares. You were locked out. That's how the space industry has worked for years. Private deals, defense contracts, institutional money only. But that may be changing. Starfighter's space is set to go public on December 18th under the ticker FJET. And unlike SpaceX, this one is actually opening up access to retail investors before it becomes mainstream. This isn't a concept stage company. They're already flying missions out of Kennedy Space Center with relationships tied to NASA, Lockheed Martin, GE, and the US Air Force, meaning real operations, real contracts, real demand. The timing is what's interesting. Over the last year, aerospace IPOs have seen strong day one moves. Voyager Technologies jumped about 82%. Firefly Aerospace rose roughly 56%. Karman Holdings opened over 30% higher. And Aero Group spiked up to 140%. Historically, the biggest moves tend to happen before everyone's paying attention. Read the filings, do your own research. For more information, check the link in the description. When we look at NYC, we see a lot of uncertainty. There are many rumors about the future of New York City over the next couple of years. Conversations about rent freezes, free transportation, government-run grocery stores, and of course, increased taxes to fund it all. And the government-run grocery stores are going to be funded, allegedly, by nearby businesses. Imagine if you could open up a store and your competitors had to fund your survival. You could hypothetically say that your business is not doing well and you need more tax revenue. Why? To cripple your competition. Because why compete? With all this said, I believe the future is going to be around stability, certainty, and of course, affordability. The meme coin era, I believe, is behind us. People betting on random altcoins or a drop shipping business, I believe, is not the future. Most people are more concerned about losing their money than trying to double it. And with that new mindset, people will hunt for a place in which they can afford to live, buying a house that is comfortable for them and on a normal salary. They'll invest in economies where they're treated best, and they'll do so to protect themselves and their family's best interest. Many of the rich and the top 1%ers, they'll move and they'll buy, lakefront mansions, they'll buy, properties along the coast in Florida, and they'll buy, large farmland. Many of the rich will flock to West Palm Beach and buy estates, so they'll go to Miami and buy oceanfront properties. Some will buy farmland, which is becoming more and more popular. Some will get second passports and buy properties in other countries to de-risk. But for 99% of Americans, they're going to be chasing a place to live where they can do so on a $50,000 to $70,000 a year salary. And they'll want to own it. And there's still a few of these markets left. But my prediction is by 2030, those markets will be gone. They'll be acquired by mom and pop investors or Wall Street, and then they'll be rented back to the general public. You'll either own assets or other people's assets will own you. I'm not sharing any of this to scare anyone, but I'm just calling it how I see it. I believe this is the direction that we're heading in. There's 4 million Americans that are set to retire from now until 2028. It's about 11,000 people every single day. Most of these retirees, they're on fixed incomes, and they thought that they had enough money to make it 5-10 years ago when they were planning than they do today. They didn't anticipate their home insurance would be going up, their health care would be going up, their property tax would be going up. And in many cases, these retirees are living in homes in which they raise their children in. They have these big homes, and they don't need the space. So what will they do? They'll either rent it out and live off the income, or they'll sell it and downsize. One way or the other, I see affordable markets as the golden opportunity over the next couple of years. That said, I'm making a very big change in this channel because of all this, about creating wealth and showing everyone the easiest path to do it with the least amount of risk. I moved my family to Ohio 12 months ago to kind of capitalize on what I think is going to be a really big opportunity. And as we've moved here, the opportunity has only grown. It's even bigger than what I thought it was going to be. And we've closed on a house every 72 hours for a full calendar year. So more than 100 homes closed. We have a construction crew of over 90 people. And I think this coming year, 2 years, 3 years is going to be really big for us. and I'm going to be focused heavily on capitalizing on this opportunity. What do you think about this shift happening with consumers right now? What's happening in cities like LA or San Francisco or New York City? What about apartment developers that are getting wiped out? Commercial real estate, retail real estate, this consumer debt crisis, where's everything going? What will the middle class look like in the next 4 years? They say by 2030, that you'll own nothing. And I think it's moving in that direction, but it's not too late. There's still a lot of opportunity out there for those that are looking to seize it. Let's have a conversation about this in the comments, and I'll catch you next video.